Will they be shown these tapes?
100%.
Will they have to watch it in court? Like during the...
100%.
New details this morning in the sex trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors now claiming that from behind bars, Combs has been trying to reach out to victims and possible witnesses. And ABC's Phil Lipoff is here now with this story. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Gio. Diddy's lawyers trying for a third time to get him out on bail, but this time, the prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from potential jury to alleged victim.
They are going to be watching basically for hours on end in front of people.
Combs was improperly contacting and paying off a witness in the case. But basically the idea was that this was a pretext to search Sean Combs' unit. But the idea here is there was a raid to search for contraband. This is a detention center that has been plagued with violence and drugs and weapons. Okay, so this raid, this sweep, it happens. And this investigator, Investigator 1, apparently took photos of 19 pages of Sean Combs' notes and sent them to a filter team. Now, a filter team is supposed to be an independent, third-party team not connected to the prosecutors that are involved in Combs' actual criminal case. They go through the documents and they make sure there's not anything in there that's attorney-client or work product privilege, okay? So the order continues from Judge Subramanian. In November, the government included some of what it received from the filter team in its opposition to Combs' bail application, and Combs objected, arguing that those notes contained privileged information and were obtained in violation of Combs' constitutional rights. The court held an emergency hearing at which the government indicated that it would not rely on the notes in opposing the bail application. The court ordered the case team to get rid of the notes in its possession, which it did.
Now, remember how I mentioned she texted her husband his address she saw from the mail in his car? Well, she told Diddy she texted her husband the address. And while she says Diddy took a beat, it was only temporarily. He then kept groping her and attempting to initiate sexual acts. She claims for 4 hours, Diddy subjected her to continuous unwanted touching and groping of her breasts in private, and even went further. Now, according to the court filing, eventually whatever she believed she ingested began to wear off, and then she regained enough strength to insist on leaving Diddy's home and demand he call her a cab. While she still felt the effects of the substance, Jane Doe says she left his home emotionally shaken and physically impaired, as well as shocked by what had happened. Now, Diddy's attorneys denied the allegations, saying no matter how many lawsuits are filed, especially by individuals who refuse to put their own names behind their claims, it won't change the fact that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. We live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason. Fortunately, a fair and impartial judicial process exists to find the truth, and Mr. Combs is confident he will prevail in court.
The prosecutors, they did initially want to use those notes in arguing that Combs should be denied bail. Why? Because they seem to indicate that those notes suggest Combs was improperly contacting and paying off a witness in the case. Yeah, they say this will show it. But yes, Judge Subramanian, in the end, ordered that those 19 pages be destroyed and that the government did not and could not use those notes in their argument for bail, but for Sean Combs it didn't matter. He was denied bail nonetheless. So according to the government, a person referred to as Investigator 1 had apparently been monitoring Sean Combs' phone calls and other communications. That's one of the ways that officials learned that Combs was allegedly breaking the jail rules by reportedly doing things like using other inmates' ID numbers or initiating three-way phone calls to potentially contact somebody he wasn't supposed to. But the defense has raised alarm bells when they say that this investigator improperly took photos of privileged notes in Combs' cell and then gave that information to the prosecution, despite the fact that the defense claims the word legal was written on the notepads, meaning there's attorney-client privilege issue.
Something is happening behind the scenes, and it's not looking good for Diddy. New court rulings, allegations of witness tampering, leaked prison calls, and now, new evidence and even more victims coming forward. This case just went from bad to worse, and the latest developments, they might have just sealed his fate. Reports are saying Diddy is losing it behind bars after a judge made a huge ruling regarding an explosive jail cell search. If you've been following this case, you already know. Things have been unraveling fast. But this latest decision, it could be the turning point. And let's be honest, Diddy has spent decades building his empire. He's been untouchable, one of the biggest names in music, business, and entertainment. But now, everything he's built is at risk. His reputation, his fortune, his freedom, and the worst part, the evidence just keeps stacking up. Hang on, because what's coming next? You won't believe it. This latest court ruling, it's a major blow for Diddy. His legal team fought hard to get his case dismissed, but the judge wasn't having it. And now, the trial is officially moving forward. That means no loopholes, no technicalities, no quick way out. And if the prosecution's case is as strong as it seems, Diddy might be in serious trouble. Let's break this down, because what happened here is huge. Back in October 2024, federal authorities conducted what was supposed to be a routine jail cell search. These sweeps happen all the time to prevent contraband, unauthorized communication, and security risks. But in Diddy's case, the investigators didn't just find a problem. They reportedly found evidence of witness tampering. And not just any witness tampering. Diddy was allegedly using three-way calls and other inmates calling privileges to communicate with people outside. Now, think about that for a second. This isn't just some minor infraction. This is a calculated attempt to bypass the prison system's monitoring. And if true, it's a huge red flag that he was still trying to control the situation from behind bars. Prosecutors jumped on this immediately. Witness tampering is no joke. It's one of the fastest ways to turn an already bad legal situation into something much worse. And given the high-profile nature of this case, the court wasn't about to let this slide. Diddy's legal team pushed back hard, arguing that the jail cell search violated his Fourth and Sixth Amendment rights. They claimed it was an illegal raid, that it trampled over attorney-client privilege, and that anything found during the search should be tossed out. They even went so far as to argue that the entire case should be dismissed because of it. But Judge Ine, he shut it down immediately. No case dismissal, no sympathy, no bending the rules. He made it clear. The trial is moving forward, and Diddy's defense team just took a massive loss. Because if they were hoping to get the case thrown out before it even started, that door just slammed shut. And here's where things get even more intense. During that search, authorities reportedly found handwritten notes inside Diddy's cell. Not just personal writings or random scribbles, but notes that prosecutors believed were related to witness tampering. They saw them as proof that he was still actively working to influence people on the outside. At first, prosecutors wanted to use those notes in court, specifically to argue against bail, but the judge stepped in and ordered those notes destroyed instead. Why? Because legally, anything related to attorney-client communication has to be handled with extreme caution. It wasn't necessarily that the notes were innocent. It was about making sure the case didn't run into legal trouble down the road. Sounds like a win for Diddy, right? Wrong. Because even without those notes, the judge still denied him bail. That alone speaks volumes. If the judge believed for even a second that Diddy wasn't a flight risk, or that he wasn't actively tampering with witnesses, he would have had a chance at bail. But instead, the court made it clear he's staying behind bars. And here's the thing. If this was just a routine security sweep and they found this much, what else does the prosecution have? Because let's be real, this investigation is deep. Federal authorities don't just go after high-profile figures unless they have a strong case. And the fact that they're pushing forward this aggressively, it means they're confident. Diddy's legal troubles are far from over. If anything, this latest ruling just proved that the prosecution has more than enough to keep him locked up. And the longer this case drags on, the worse it's looking for him. Because if they're already uncovering evidence like this inside the jail, imagine what's waiting for him when the full case unfolds. This trial is just getting started. And if these early rulings are any indication, Diddy's fight for freedom might already be slipping away. This case just got even bigger. If Diddy thought his legal troubles couldn't get any worse, he was wrong. Prosecutors have officially filed a superseding indictment, which means the scope of this case has expanded. and not just by a little. This is a huge development. Here's what that means. Originally, the case covered a 16-year span, but now, the charges stretch all the way from 2004 to 2024. That's 2 full decades of alleged crimes under investigation. And that's not all. Prosecutors have just added 2 more victims to the case. And let's be clear, this isn't just about adding names to a list. Prosecutors don't expand cases like this unless they have concrete evidence to back it up. Every additional victim strengthens their case, making it even harder for Diddy to fight these charges. And if history tells us anything about cases like this, more victims could still come forward, because once people see that others are speaking out and that prosecutors are taking these claims seriously, it emboldens them to tell their own stories. And the accusations, they're getting darker. Prosecutors claim that Diddy and his associates didn't just commit these crimes. They allegedly used intimidation, coercion, and financial incentives to trap victims into forced commercial sex acts. If true, that means this wasn't just about money or power, it was about control. Think about that for a second. This isn't just a financial fraud case. This isn't just a white-collar scandal. These are serious allegations that go beyond anything Diddy has ever been accused of before. And the fact that prosecutors are willing to expand the charges this much, that means they know they have something big. And let's talk about what that means legally, because expanding the time frame and adding more victims, that's not something prosecutors do unless they have rock-solid evidence. They're showing the court that this wasn't a one-time thing, that this was a pattern, that this case is bigger than anyone originally thought. And here's the part nobody is talking about yet. What about the people who helped? Because if these allegations are true, there's no way Diddy was doing this alone. Prosecutors are already mentioning associates, which means the investigation isn't just focused on him anymore. If they're expanding the charges this much, they're definitely looking into who else was involved. And let's be real, if Diddy's associates start getting nervous, if they think the heat is coming their way, it wouldn't be surprising if some of them flip to save themselves. Because when people are looking at serious prison time, loyalty tends to disappear fast. And if that happens, if even one insider starts cooperating with the feds, that could be game over for Diddy. This isn't just a legal battle anymore. This is turning into a full-blown takedown. And the bigger this case gets, the harder it's going to be for Diddy to fight back. Because the more victims that come forward, the stronger the prosecution's case becomes. And if this is just the beginning, Diddy might not be the only one going down. Because if prosecutors are already expanding this case to 20 years of alleged crimes, that means they believe they can prove this was a long-running operation. And once they start pulling those threads, the entire thing could completely unravel. So the real question now, who's next? Because Diddy might be the biggest name in this case. But if these allegations are true, there's no way he was acting alone. And if this is the prosecution's first move, imagine what else they're holding on to. This case isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. And at this point, it's looking really bad for Diddy. Things are falling apart fast for Diddy, and now, even his own legal team is jumping ship. One of his attorneys, Anthony Rico, has just filed a motion to withdraw from the case. That means he's done. He wants out. And the fact that this is happening now, it's not a good sign. The reason behind his sudden departure? Unclear. No official statement. No explanation. Just silence. But that hasn't stopped the speculation. Because, let's be real, lawyers don't just quit high-profile cases like this for no reason. And people are asking why. Was it internal disagreements? Did he see something behind the scenes that made him uncomfortable? Or is this case so bad that even his own legal team doesn't think they can win? Because let's think about this. Diddy is one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. He has endless resources, connections, and a reputation for fighting. If this case was manageable, wouldn't his legal team be doubling down instead of backing out? The fact that Rico is leaving suggests that something is happening behind closed doors. Something that made him decide this case wasn't worth staying on for. And here's the other thing. This isn't just any lawyer. Anthony Rico has been a key part of Diddy's legal defense. The kind of lawyer who would only walk away if the situation was completely out of control. And let's not forget, this isn't the first sign of instability in Diddy's defense. First, the prosecution expands the case. Then new victims come forward. Now his own lawyer is leaving. It's starting to look like a sinking ship. And if one lawyer is leaving, what's stopping more from following? Because if Rico saw something that made him think this case isn't salvageable, what are the chances that other members of Diddy's legal team are thinking the same thing? This is bad, really bad. And if Diddy can't even keep his own defense team together, that says everything about where this case is headed. If things weren't bad enough for Diddy, this latest leak might have just destroyed any chance he had left. A recorded prison phone call allegedly featuring Diddy has just surfaced online, and what he said, it's deeply concerning. In the call, Diddy is heard using coded language, reportedly instructing someone to get rid of the pizza boxes. Now, on the surface, that might sound innocent, just a throwaway phrase. But people are not buying it, because in certain circles, pizza has been speculated to be a code word for underage victims, a theory linked to past high-profile conspiracy allegations. And in this case, the timing, the phrasing, the context, it's all raising serious red flags. So the big question, what exactly was he trying to get rid of? Documents? Physical evidence? Or worse, something far more sinister? And it doesn't stop there. At another point in the call, Diddy allegedly mentions having an ace up his sleeve. What does that mean? Some believe he was hinting at his connections in the federal government, a last-ditch effort to use his influence to protect himself. Others think he might have been referring to legal strategy, some kind of desperate move to flip the case in his favor. But whatever it was, it clearly wasn't enough, because hours after the leak, something even stranger happened. Diddy was suddenly allowed to leave MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center, for a medical checkup, and not just at any time, at 1 a.m. Now, let's be real, that doesn't just happen. Inmates don't just get midnight medical runs out of nowhere. And with everything surrounding this case, the leaks, the allegations, the growing pressure, it's got people asking a lot of questions. Was this some kind of secret meeting? Was someone trying to help him on the inside? Or was this just another strange twist in a case that keeps getting more bizarre by the day? One thing's for sure, this phone call changes everything. If the authorities weren't already watching his every move, they definitely are now. And if there's any truth to what people are speculating, Diddy might have just sealed his own fate. This case just took an even darker turn because now, Diddy's name is being tied to high-level corruption in New York City. And the connection? None other than Mayor Eric Adams himself. It's no secret, Diddy and Mayor Adams have been close for years. Public appearances, mutual support, even political favors. But now, both of them are caught in major federal scandals at almost the exact same time. And people are starting to ask questions. Shortly after Diddy's arrest, Mayor Adams was indicted on federal corruption charges. Coincidence? Maybe. But many are starting to believe that both of them have been under federal surveillance for years, and now, the government is finally making its move. And here's where things get really suspicious. Just weeks before Diddy's arrest, Mayor Adams personally gave him the key to the city of New York, a symbolic honor reserved for top figures in entertainment, activism, and business. But now, that ceremony is being seen in a completely different light. Was this a genuine honor? Or was it a favor between two powerful men who knew the walls were closing in? Because let's be real, nobody gets that close to a sitting mayor without some serious political connections. And now, with both of them under investigation, the public is wondering, was there more to their relationship than just friendship? And let's not forget, federal investigators don't move unless they have solid evidence. If Diddy and Adams were both on the government's radar, it means authorities already knew something long before these arrests happened. So what were they really looking for? Financial ties? Illegal deals? Something even bigger? This case is no longer just about Diddy's alleged crimes. It's starting to expose the power network behind him. And if the feds are truly unraveling who protected him, who worked with him, and who benefited from him, then this investigation is far from over. In fact, it might be just getting started. As if Diddy's legal troubles weren't already piling up, now he's on the hook for a massive civil judgment. $100 million, to be exact. And the reason? A shocking allegation that dates all the way back to 1997. A Michigan man took Diddy to court, claiming that he was drugged and assaulted by the music mogul over 2 decades ago. The case flew under the radar at first, but things escalated when Diddy failed to respond to the lawsuit. And in the legal world, that's a huge mistake, because instead of fighting the claims, Diddy's silence led to an automatic default judgment, meaning the court ruled against him without a trial. And now, he's legally required to pay $10 million per month, starting in October. Think about that, $10 million every single month. That's devastating even for someone as wealthy as Diddy. And the worst part, this judgment is separate from his ongoing criminal case. It doesn't matter what happens in court, this debt is locked in. And let's be real, Diddy is already losing money fast. Sponsors are dropping him, business deals are crumbling, and with this $100 million judgment hanging over his head, the financial fallout might destroy what's left of his empire. So the question now is, can he even afford to fight his criminal case? Or is this just the beginning of total financial ruin? Prison is not built for the rich and famous, especially not MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center, one of the most dangerous federal facilities in the country. And right now, that's where Diddy is sitting. MDC has a brutal reputation, filthy conditions, extreme violence, and corruption at every level. Former inmates have spoken out about maggot-infested food, freezing cold cells, and guards who turn a blind eye to assaults. Some have even claimed that prison staff help cover up attacks. And Diddy? He's reportedly being kept in solitary confinement, also known as the SHU, which means he's locked away for 23 hours a day, with almost no human contact. Why? Because according to former warden Cameron Lindsay, Diddy is considered a high-value target in jail. That means one thing: he's at risk. There are already whispers that other inmates see Diddy as an opportunity, a way to make a name for themselves inside. In prison, attacking a high-profile inmate can earn serious respect. And with everything Diddy has been accused of, the general population is not going to be welcoming. Right now, his legal team is fighting to get him out on bail. But after everything that's happened, the chances of that happening are slim to none. So the real question is, how long can he last? If Diddy thought things couldn't get any worse, this might be the final nail in the coffin. The FBI has reviewed a series of videos known as the freak-off tapes, and prosecutors are planning to play them in court. These aren't just rumors. These tapes have already been handed over to investigators. And what's on them? Illegal sex acts, graphic footage, victims allegedly being exploited. A key witness, Courtney Burgess, CEO of Alter Ego Records, has personally given the FBI 8 tapes showing Diddy engaging in disturbing activities. And here's the thing: even if his victims refuse to testify, these tapes can still be used as evidence. That's huge, because usually high-profile cases like this rely on victim testimony, which can sometimes fall apart under pressure. But if the FBI has hard video evidence, there's no way to spin that. This means that when Diddy's trial begins, the jury will see everything. And if these tapes are as bad as sources are claiming, this might be game over for him. The trial isn't even here yet, and it's already looking like a worst-case scenario. With everything stacking up against him, Diddy's legal team is grasping at straws, and their latest move? Claiming racial discrimination. His lawyers are now arguing that some of the charges, specifically the transportation to engage in prostitution charge, are unfairly targeting black men. Now, let's be clear. Racial bias is a real issue in the justice system. But prosecutors? They're not having it. They've outright rejected this argument, saying the charges are based on clear evidence, not race. And let's be real, Diddy isn't just dealing with 1 or 2 charges. He's facing a massive, multi-agency investigation with witness testimony, financial records, and now, video evidence. Trying to frame this as a race issue, it feels more like a desperation move than a real legal strategy. And so far, it's not working. The judge isn't budging. The prosecution is pressing forward. And Diddy? He's running out of moves. So where does that leave him? Locked up, buried under legal troubles, and watching his empire collapse before his eyes. And if things keep going the way they are, he might never get out. Diddy's situation isn't just bad. It's getting worse by the day. More victims, more evidence, a longer time frame of alleged crimes. And now, his own legal team is falling apart. Witnesses are stepping forward, and the infamous freak-off tapes are about to be played in open court. At this point, winning isn't even the conversation anymore. It's about how much he's going to lose. And let's be real. Even if he manages to dodge some charges, the sheer volume of lawsuits and criminal cases stacking up against him, it almost guarantees that he'll be locked away for a long time. The feds don't move like this unless they're 100% sure they have a solid case. And with all the new allegations, evidence, and legal failures piling up, it's starting to look like there's no way out.